Welcome to the Accounting Profits and Prosperity Show. I am your host, Louis Prosperi. Today, our guest is called the Radical CPA because she is a forward-thinking CPA, industry innovator, and a champion author of innovation, technology, and the modern firm mindset. Please welcome to the show, Jody Padar. Hi, Jody. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's a great honor to have you here. We're trying to get you on this show for a while. I'm so glad we were able to do it, particularly now with all of the changes that are coming into the industry. And from what I understand, you are the person that, because I like the radical CPA, to be quite honest. I love that terminology. That if all of us could be radical CPAs, I think the profession will be so much better off, to be quite honest. I really do like that. And I looked at your website and so forth, and you're a big proponent of taking advantage of tools, technology, what's coming forward rather than looking at behind or what is today. And I really, really think that we need more people like you in our industry to keep doing that. So, saying that, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges accounting firms are going to be? What's standing out for you?
So I'm excited about it. You say it's a challenge. I see it as an opportunity, and that's the way I look at
Fair enough.
everything in my life, right?
Yep.
But we're in a renaissance. We're in a rebirth. AI is here. It's not coming. It's here. So accountants
True.
need to just realize that it's here. What we do today is going to be fundamentally different than what we've done in the past. And the sooner that we can engage with it with curiosity and think about how we ourselves are going to evolve and how our profession is going to evolve is going to be the greatest opportunity for the profession. And I mean, quite honestly, it's beyond just our profession, the world. And like, I know that there's a lot of fear about AI, but the more you get into it, the more you'll realize, wow, like it is making me be 10x better than I am without it.
I think you're right. I really, really agree with you on the AI side because I'm starting to use it a lot in my work. And what I found is even just because I think one of the biggest time issues for me is communication to customers, staff, and so forth. And AI allows you not only to communicate more effectively, it allows you to put what you would do in point form and then have to do a prose out of it in such a much faster pace. And I think to me that alone is a game changer. What do you think on that one, Jody?
So I think it's important to use it for communication, but I think it's even like it's next level the way people who aren't using it are like, I mean, it's really like a new way of like there's a thing called AIQ, right? So you know how there's like EQ and IQ? Well, now there's
Right.
AIQ, right? And it's how do you combine your intuition, your curiosity with AI to make you a 10x leader? And to me, that's where we need to be thinking, not just about, oh yeah, like it's going to optimize our bookkeeping. Yeah. To me and I don't mean this because I know like I'm always ahead, but to me that's like that's old news, right? That's
Yes.
efficiency. Forget about efficiency. How do we allow it to make us be better advisors, have better client relationships, give clients better experiences, and really kind of wrap it nicely as opposed to just saying, "Oh yeah, it's doing all the data," um, because to me that's just a tool. Whereas the way I'm thinking about AI, it's really like a way to optimize me as a better leader, as a better advisor, as a better confidant to my customer.
So that's probably going to be the biggest query because people, first of all, I'm going to be honest with you. Uh, Thanks to AI, I think advisory services now are finally getting to the point where you can actually, as a small business owner or as a small accounting firm, provide them in an effective manner given your time space. Um, so, uh, do you think AI is going to help the industry to understand that to make the shift from what I call the efficiency part or the historical world or compliance world and allowing our accountants to use their the other side of their brain? Not I forgot which side is the
Yeah.
ingenuity side, but the right side. Do you know what I mean? What do you
Yeah,
think?
so I think it is, but it's only going to be for those who embrace it, right? Like the biggest problem that the profession has is they're risk adverse. So
Right.
how do we get them to realize that this is a huge opportunity and not something to be fearful of, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be the challenge of the future. Now, I think the good thing is the next gen, like they're used to like tools and just picking things up and whatever. So I think they'll have an opportunity to like kind of become better advisors faster if they embrace it. And the old school guys, they're going to either have to like learn it or they're going to have to get out of the way. Like, and it's okay. Like
Yeah,
they can
I
get
get
out of
it.
the way. Like,
Yeah.
but if they don't embrace it, they're the ones who risk being irrelevant because AI is moving at a pace that you have to keep up. And again, it's beyond just the, oh, it's going to categorize transactions, right? Like, oh, it's going to do the day to day work because yes, it's going to do that. Yes, even before AI, the tools, the technology was already doing that,
Yes.
even just in the cloud, right? Like when I sold my firm in 2020, I was already really, really, really efficient. So it's not like you couldn't get to a matter of efficiency. And
Right.
and if you go to India or to the Philippines or whatever, like now that's
Sure.
what people are doing, right? Like they're getting more efficient. But it's not just about efficiency. It's how do you really transform a profession to become better advisors and to allow us to kind of keep our space in the world that we live in.
So, since we're talking about AI advisory and shifting, what are the what are some of the creative ways that an accounting firm can actually do that? Like, what things do they have to do? And I'm going to call it a mind shift. What
It
mind
is a
shifts
mind
do they
shift.
have to do first before? Like, you're right, the tools are there, the AI tools are there, and they're getting better and better. But if you don't have the right mindset, I think that's going to be a huge hindrance. So, what does a professional who really wants to embrace it? What kind of mind shift do they have to do?
So they have to start experimenting with it, right? Like it's not like you take a course in AI. Yes, you can take a course in AI, but
Sure.
you have to actually get into the tool and start playing with it. It's not something that you just like learn it and you learn it by engaging with it, right? Like that's the best way to learn it. But I think in what's been out in the profession, and I'm about to change this because this is like kind of where I'm going in the future, is everything is about like prompts, like what prompt do I use, right? Forget
Right.
prompts. Start talking to ChatGPT like it's your best friend, it's your best business friend. Just start having conversations with it. And if you don't like to type, it's got that little button at the bottom that you could just talk to it, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
just yeah, you can actually use the voice command. It's the Amazon or the Siri that you always wanted, or the Alexa that you always
Right.
wanted, right?
Right.
Like it,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
and
That's
so
interesting.
you just talk to it, tell it about your day, tell it about your problems, tell it about your business, tell it about a client conversation that you had and you walked away from it and you don't know how it landed. Tell it that you want it to help you have that conversation better the next time. Those are the prompts, and they're not even prompts, they're just conversations that it's going to help you be reflective of what you've done and give you that insight into how to make yourself better and to how to have better conversation. And that's going to allow you, let's just say you're a 25-year-old advisor who has, or advisor, accountant who has just a couple of years of experience. It's
Right.
going to give you that partner level experience in 6 months instead of in 20 years, right? But
Wow.
you have to take the incentive to start talking to it to have it develop you faster. And it will do that.
So that's a unique concept, eh, with regards to the way when you were talking about it. To me, it literally sounded like a sounding board at your
Exactly.
disposal, right? Because it would be great to have a sounding board, like people you can just talk to and work out the things. Now you're saying the artificial intelligence out there can be at least a way for you not to get out of your head and do it, almost have that sounding board that you can then check. I think that's amazing. I've never even thought of
Absolutely.
it that way. That's a great idea. That's really
And
great.
what happens is the more you have these conversations, the more it gets to know you, and the more it starts reflecting things back to you, and the more it helps you evolve. So like AI, so think of it like again, it's your business best friend, right? So think of it like your best friend initially, and like in the beginning of a relationship, you're kind of like a little awkward. They're a little bit awkward. Oh, should we go to the movies? I don't know, whatever, right? Like,
All right.
and then you go for coffee, and then like, oh, and then like 6 months later, like you're telling them your deepest, darkest secrets, right? And
All
that's
right.
kind of the awkwardness that you have to get through, because AI is going to learn, but it has to learn, right? Like it doesn't come out of the box knowing you instantaneously, but it knows a lot about you. And if you use something simple like Firefly, right? Or like people use Firefly or Otter AI, right? Like those note
Yep. I've heard. Yep.
conversations, and they're using them just to take notes. Forget about like, oh, I'm going to use it for like to dos. That's the way everybody thinks about it. Forget about using it as a to do. Upload it and ask it insightful questions about how you handle conversations, right?
Oh wow.
Now it's going to give you feedback about you as an advisor. How did you do? Ask it to score you in your client conversation as to what the client took away from it, what you could have done better, how to increase you. And you can even build custom GPTs to then track that data to see how you're improving as with your client conversations over the next, 2 months, 3 months. So, and you don't need someone to do that for you. Now, again, it takes a person who wants to like kind of figure it out, right? Like it's a little bit of a
No,
do it yourself, but this
yeah.
is the stuff that I'm going to be teaching. I'm going to be working on, like really evolving for, uh, the next years, because this is the stuff to me that adds immediate value that nobody's talking about. Everyone's talking about, oh, it's going to categorize transactions. Who cares? Like,
So let's you got my curiosity way up on the Firefly thing. So I've heard of it, and I'm starting to use it a little bit in some of my because some of my customers that I'm working with, that's the way we're communicating within the group,
mhm.
and the meetings are done. So if I understand correctly, Firefly will not only record and do a transcript, you can then ask it questions about that meeting, and it will tell you, or it will grade you, or give you feedback. Is that what you're saying? It will do
Yes,
stuff
but
like
it
that?
won't do it in Firefly, right? So you take that data. So let's back
Right.
up and talk about what
Yeah.
data is and what AI is.
Perfect.
AI, if you think about AI first takes unstructured data and turns it into structured data. Now, all that means is once unstructured data is could be coming from an email, could be coming from a conversation, it could be coming from
Sure.
anywhere, right? And it gives it structure. When you put it into like a chat GPT, now it becomes structured data and you can query it, you can ask it questions, right? So
Okay.
at its simplest term, I'm not an AI, like I'm not an IT person, but that's to me the easiest way to explain it. You've taken unstructured data, you've turned it into structured, and now you can do something with it, because a
Right.
computer can read structured data, it can't read unstructured data. Okay. So now you upload that Firefly conversation and you ask it how your interactions were. And when I say upload it, you don't do it in Firefly, you upload it into ChatGPT or
Okay.
to
Now I
some
understand.
some
Okay.
other like regular AI model, right? not
Okay.
not in and of itself, because basically what it did was it recorded it, gave you the data. But now you
Okay.
ask it questions about how you did as an advisor, like, and you can ask
Okay.
it to score you. You can ask it like what the other person took away. Did they like, and it will do that. I mean, it's pretty freaking cool. It'll say you got a 6 out of 10 here, or this is, and then you can tell it what you want it to do, right? Like you can say, well, grade me on my opening, right? You could say grade me on my closing. You could say grade me on um did the did my client really understand it, or did I talk too hard for them? Because the GPT will know if it like understood it or not, or it'll say, like, it'll tell you, well, it's gray. And if you do that, again, now you're turning structured data or unstructured data into structured data. Now you upload 10 conversations, and the AI will tell you how you've improved over the last 10 conversations. Like, that's cool, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's
no, that is
amazing.
really interesting.
And
Uh,
nobody's talking about that. Nobody's thinking about that. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's gonna like categorize transactions." Who cares?
so we're going to go down this little rabbit hole for a little more because I really like this. So, with regards to the data that you upload to a Chat GPT, let's say, I guess as as anything, because the conversation we're going to have with our customer base will have some confidential information in there, right? I guess the concern is how secure is it in that realm? Is there a way for security, or is that kind of
Well, you don't
not
use the
an issue?
free version. You don't use the free version. There's
Okay,
a version out there that I think I'm not sure if it's called Enterprise or Teams or whatever, but it's the corporate version and you have to buy 2 users at least, and it's like $60 a month. So with
okay.
ChatGPT, you just have to make sure, and it says right on it, it's like it's secure. It's like not the one that is the free version. That just make sure you buy the right one.
Okay, so it's
Uh,
yeah, I think it's the business one, right? It's the business where
right.
it's automatically two people that you
Cor-
got. Yeah, I know that one. Okay, fair enough.
Correct. And then you get your own workspace in there, and then all of that data stays in your
Okay,
instance of it. So yeah, so I wouldn't be like putting it out there on the free version. No, that's just dumb. But
fair enough. Right. So I guess the step one is utilize the AI because it sounds like it could actually. So does it do video as well or just transcripts? Because that's interesting. Is it just a
um
transcript you bring over, or do you bring the video over and it
I just
watches
bring
the
over
video?
I think I haven't actually upload. See, again, I'm still playing, I'm still learning,
Right.
right? Like I just upload the transcript and then
Okay.
I ask it questions about like how I did in the conversation. So,
Perfect. Oh, that's good. That's
but
great.
that requires you to want to self-improve. That requires you to want to be better, and not everybody wants that, right? So like
Yeah.
you have to come in with the right mindset, or, and again, that's me, right? Like I'm very self motivated.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what you do for your employees, right? And you say, look, this is how we're going to start teaching advisory skills. And over the next 3 months, we're going to see how you score, how you evolve, right? So, like, if you're not that person, or let's say you have a team, I mean, there's ways to take that and like teach your team too how to get better, because not everyone's going to come up and say, "Oh, this is what I want to do to be better," right? It's just the way people are, right? And
Yeah.
especially when you're self-employed, right? Like you have to have that you know that that hustle, or that want to be better, versus an employee who may or may not really care, or maybe they just need some other incentive, some other carrot in front of them to kind of do their job.
Well, Jody, we're going to jump ship a little bit from AI, but it's still in the same realm. You've mentioned, or you've done this with regards to how accountants, when they talk to people, they don't use storytelling as a technique,
Right.
right? Uh, and I've seen that storytelling, and it's a differentiator. But what does that mean to you, Jody? Like if you had to explain to a professional and say, okay, start incorporating storytelling in your conversations or even in your advisory services, how would you explain what storytelling is?
Well, numbers tell stories, right?
Right.
So, but the idea of storytelling is just that people remember the story. They don't necessarily remember the number, right? Like you
Right.
always remember. It's a memory thing, really, right? Like you get the lesson from the story, right? Think about from the time we're little kids, right? We're told stories to kind of help us. So it's more of a thing of understanding it, right? So it's easier to understand a complex concept if there's a story attached to it. So think of the story behind the numbers. And so again, this is something that maybe isn't your first maybe you're not comfortable in it, maybe you haven't learned it, but this is something where AI could help you, right? Like you could ask the advisory, like you could actually give it that information and say, "Hey, what's a good story to tell around it?" Right? Like there's all of these things that AI could help you become a
Yeah.
better advisor with. This
Wow.
is where it gets to creativity, not just, oh, like it's going to rewrite my email, right? Like, and this is where people get caught in the email level. Now, part of it is just like you have to go, you know, like kind of you have to go on the thing, right? Like Yes, absolutely. Start using it for email, because if you don't start an email, you're never going to get to the
That
right to
makes
the
sense.
next
Yeah,
level. But
right.
email to me is like baby steps. Let's get you in like master's level how to use AI to make your brain 10x smarter.
But you do believe that storytelling is probably the way to go when you're communicating with your customers and so forth. It's a technique that, if you utilize it correctly, will differentiate you from your competitors and from other professionals.
Um, yes and no. I think storytelling is important because I think but I think there's a lot of other things that go into an advisory conversation, or it's beyond just the numbers tell the story. It's the trust, it's the listening more so than the talking, right? Like, what is
Right,
it that your customer really wants from you? Not just, oh, I went in because I have a story. And again, too many advisors walk in, I know what I'm talking about. This is what I'm doing. And that's not an advisory relationship. That's a consulting relationship. Advisory is
right,
really walking alongside your customer and saying, hey, this is what I've noticed in your business. What are you seeing in your business? Or what's going on in your business that I can help you digest, understand, etc. And I think that's where a lot of accountants get it wrong, is they come in with a consulting mindset and not an advisory. And it's a different relationship.
yeah. Could you? Because that's probably really important, because I think that a lot of people get the two confused or mixed up. So could you go through a little bit about how to define? Look, if you're going to go in, this is what, and you do this. This is technically consulting, and if you do this, this is more advisory. If you could just go through that so people can have a concept and make sure that they classify what they're doing at that point.
Well,
And
so for me, and again, there's a bazillion different definitions, but to
sure,
me, consulting is when you go in, you know exactly what you know. You're essentially teaching them something very specific, or you're
right,
teaching them, you're helping them understand something about their business, but you go in with the right answer. You know it because you've seen it before, you've experienced it before, you know it.
right.
That's a consulting relationship. An advisory relationship is where your client is having a problem. You don't know the right answer, but you're walking alongside them and you're figuring it out together because you have a different perspective. They might know the answer themselves, but they just need someone to help them get there.
Wow.
And you're
Yeah.
walking alongside them. So I think that's the difference. And it's an advisory relationship is always led by the client. A consulting relationship could be led by the accountant.
I think that's going to be a very scary thing for most accountants, because they like to have the answers, right? I don't think most of us want to be in a position where we don't have the answers. I think we're more
You
comfortable
just
in the
need to learn
consulting
how to
side.
have like
I'm not
those
disagreeing with
holding.
you.
I don't know. So here's the thing. I think people misunderstand accountants. I think, yes, accountants have been trained, and yes, accountants are risk adverse, and yes, there's certain behaviors that go along
Yeah.
with accountants. But if you really get to know accountants, they're a fun group and they can learn anything. They're really smart and they just haven't been exposed to having those conversations. And if you can structure it in a data perspective and utilize AI and unstructured data and turn it into structured data and show them how the data is going to help them learn to have these conversations better, why wouldn't you?
Oh no, I love your concept. I'm just saying that until they actually have someone like you around, or someone to show them how to shift, I think they're naturally in the consulting phase. That's their natural state. Uh, Not all of us can just automatically understand. I do like all of the tools you're bringing up today to allow them to do the shift, because um, it it's more fun, in my opinion, to be the advisor, because you're actually going on a trip with the customer
Right.
and exploring. And when things happen, they're actually more entertaining when you. It's different when you already know the ending. With the consulting, it sounds like you already know the ending because you know the answer, right? So it's more. But I do enjoy that, and I think the customer also enjoys it more as well, because it's something that they are also going through with you, and I think that changes the
Well, it's
dynamic.
the journey, right? It's the journey that makes the connection. And I think, again, depends on the personality, but like you can't say you don't like something if you've never really been taught it. And I think ultimately most
Yeah,
accountants were never taught advisory. And
that's a good
so
point.
they don't even know if they like it or they don't like it because they've always been so busy just doing the work. They never got to the last 10% or the last 5% of advisory because they had to get the numbers right. But in a
Right.
world where AI is behind the scenes and the numbers are right, because you know the numbers are right,
Yes.
now you can have those conversations. So the more tech you use, the more human you have to be. And even though I love my AI BFF, it's
Yeah.
still not a human. It,
Right.
it
I
it gives
agree.
me a lot, but it's still
Yeah.
not a human. And so that's
Yeah.
where we have to define our value and say, this is where we really can lead in the future.
Yeah, no. So, because one of the things you kept mentioning when we first started the conversation was leadership, right? Being accounts are going to become more of a leadership role rather than and when you're, and now it seems to be, I'm getting this fuller picture where leadership and advisory kind of go hand in hand, right? Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's right compared to consulting. Consulting is not as critical, is not more leadership, and I think you're right. I think. Um, it's an exciting time because you're not wrong on this. The AI allows us to do these things in a way, and it also teaches us, right?
Right.
And I think that was the missing concept in the past, where we had to go to a teacher. Not, I don't want to put any teachers out of business or anything, but the point is, it was here you could do it with a program which can be convenient and used when you need
Well,
it,
well, think
right?
about YouTube, right? What
Yeah,
happened before YouTube, right?
yeah,
Like YouTube really is an education platform. Like, yes, there's videos and yes, but
yeah,
and then it became a search, right? Like, so they'll say like, but the funny thing is all these things you used to not be able to do, now everybody goes to YouTube to figure out how to
yeah.
do them,
YouTube
right?
it. I do it all the time, right? I need to
So
know something. I
so,
YouTube it.
but you
Absolutely
can't interact with YouTube. It doesn't
true.
like you get so far and then you're like, wait, but my screw is over here and this screw is over here and
Right,
I don't
right.
know where to go. And then you got to go see if you can find another video that helps you get to the next step because
Yeah.
the one video you watched was like, wait, that didn't work.
No, I
Right?
agree. Like cooking is the same thing. You do two or three cook. You want a certain thing to be done, so you go research three or four of them, and then the pictures aren't the same as what you're doing. I agree with you, but it's very effective though. I agree that that's
So to me this is just the next level YouTube, right? So it's a
yeah, fair
and
enough.
it may not be in video, right? Maybe it will be in video, but as it evolves, right? But it's
Sure.
the same thing, except now you can actually ask it when you get stuck. You can say, hey, this isn't working, I only have 3 tomatoes and it calls for 5 tomatoes, what can I substitute? And
Right,
it'll
right.
it'll come up with you. Your YouTube video didn't do that,
No, it
right?
won't. No, it won't do that. No,
And what
absolutely.
happened before YouTube? How did we figure this stuff out before? What did we do? We asked the neighbor, we used our community, we had to figure it out some way, right? And so then we had YouTube, and then all of a sudden everyone just became kind of these do-it-yourselfers, right? And
Yeah.
now we're at that next level. And what will happen? We don't know what we don't know yet. And to me, that again, that's why it's a renaissance, because it's like, wow, like what are we going to evolve to? Because we don't even know what's coming. And what happens and I know this seems like a little futuristic-y and a lot of people get freaked out by it,
Right.
but to me, that's what we should be thinking about, not how does it categorize transactions. Like, because AI didn't help us categorize transactions. Machine learning, there's a lot of other automation tools that were categorizing transactions
True.
before
True.
AI. How can
Yeah.
we use AI to do something that we don't even know ourselves are capable of?
So Jody, you have a great book out that has some really cool stuff in there, and I would love for you to just tell our audience about it a little bit more because um, uh, I think they should know and get to know you better, and I think your book is probably one of the better ways to do that.
Yeah, so my book is Radical Pricing. It was published last summer. It's really about how you price your customer, kind of the
Right.
value pricing with my kind of secret sauce to it. But the
Fantastic.
reason it's so important now is because as AI comes into the world, and everything. So the reason I changed the business model and learned how to price differently was because I used to say, how do you build 2 minutes? Well, you can't build 2 minutes. You have to charge on our outcomes. You have to figure out a different pricing model. Well,
Correct.
now we have to do the exact same thing, or like it's even more, because AI is like, it's like 2 seconds. It's not even 2 minutes, right?
True.
So we have to figure out how we're going to engage and price for what we're worth, price, and kind of gives you the how to of it, where, a lot of the pricing experts have really talked about at the highest level, like kind of the philosophy of it, which I think most people get, but
Yeah.
they don't understand the how and how do you implement it. And so what my book does is it really helps you understand the backside of your firm and how do you actually get it to work in your firm versus just, you know, at the
Yeah,
theoretical
yeah,
level.
Jody, the implementation is probably the most critical part of any
Absolutely.
strategy, and that's great because I think for you're right when it comes to value based pricing or knowledge pricing, because we're a knowledge industry. We're not a time. Time is more of a constraint rather than a revenue producer for us, right? And it makes perfect sense that we do knowledge based pricing, and to know how to actually do that in your firm is fantastic. So, Jody, this has been great, and I can't believe how fast the time has flew by. To be quite honest, and I would love our audience, if they need to know more about you or what you're doing right now, could you give us a little bit of where they can get a hold of you and what's going on?
Yeah, so go to radical.cpa, which is my website. It's really a blog. It's actually a Substack, but it's really a blog. You can put your email in, and then twice a week you'll get an email newsletter from me of kind of what's coming,
Fantastic.
what's going next. But also there's a ton of content of all the things that I'm talking about, everything that's important to running an AI first firm. So all this like futuristic stuff is sitting there. So go there, check it out, and connect to me on LinkedIn. So I put out a ton of content on LinkedIn, and feel free to connect with me there as well.
And I'm assuming you're doing some speaking engagements. Are you going to be at any events that people should be checking out?
Yeah, I'm usually everywhere.
Okay.
So, but I'll be at Engage in June in Vegas. So, I mean, like, I don't know, like, just check out where I'm at, and you can always catch me online because I'm always doing webinars
Oh,
and all kinds
fantastic.
of things there. So, like, you'll know where I'm at.
Well, that's great, Jody. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome, thank you.
Jody, once again, thank you for joining us today. And to you, our valued viewers, thank you for tuning into this episode. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel. As always, we welcome your feedback and comments below. Until next time, stay hydrated, always be curious, and above all, stay well.